Hello there, YouTube Muck Munchers, and it's been a little while, but we're back with another Settlers Focus On, and this time we're looking at the carrier. The first thing we notice is he doesn't have a mouth, so that's a little bit disturbing. But yeah, let's take a quick look about what we know about these guys. They they come from either your headquarters or, in fact, a storehouse, and the first thing that they do is go on roads and carry your stuff, so they're very important. They're called hands. I call them carriers because when you hover over them they're called carriers, but they're called hands when you look inside the storehouse. You can see them here, and you can see we've got 100 in this storehouse, and we've got 300 overall because we've got a headquarters that has 100 and two storehouses that have 100. And hands just appear out of nowhere. Build ourselves a storehouse just here, and we'll see it happen over time. The thing that they do, these very clever little guys, is they will man the catapults. So up here you've got the catapult, which we'll look at a little bit later, but that is also manned by a hand. You can see our hands increase, and it's at a rate of 1 every 6 seconds, and they just appear out of nowhere, and it tries to level off at about 100. There are no hands when you first get a storehouse. They build up as time goes on. Alright, and you can see we've got no hands, the carrier goes in, and then one hand appears out of nowhere, and we'll wait, 2 hands appear out of nowhere, and it's about once every 6 seconds until you reach 100. We can also really see, yep, in goes the hand, and now you'll start getting stone. So that's that. Now obviously, how do they walk along these pathways? How do they deliver stone and other resources? It's all very important, so let's dig into that now. So I set up 6, well actually I set up more experiments than that, but I'm showing you 6 experiments for how to set up pathways to try and make a watchtower as quickly as possible. The first one is just a straight long path. All of these walkways take the same distance, and I'm just going to show you how quickly they do each other. This one is trying to utilize multiple pathways coming together at certain points. I did try putting roads through the middle of these as well, but actually the AI just got confused, so didn't bother showing you that one. This one's a bit more of a complicated one, different pathways with flags at different intervals in between. This is an offset. I wondered how this one would work, trying to integrate some longer roads and shorter roads to see if we could offset how the planks themselves went. Obviously 4 planks going for a watchtower. This is the simplest one, just splitting the path up into 2 section long paths, and then the final one with 3 long roads. So this is trying to simulate just totally different pathways to get to the watchtower, and timed all of these one against the other, and actually what we'll see is that the 3 long pathways does best, and then very closely followed by the path just split into sections, and then the others do slightly worse until you get to the long road, which is the very worst. The AI gets confused on some of these, so probably best not to use those. The long and the short of it is, I think it's probably best just to use the single path split into sections, unless you've got lots of space, and that's what I'll be going forward with in the future. Let's look at how fast they can travel along flat ground, and here, this middle section from there to there is the flat ground. We're going to see how fast they can deliver goods along flat ground, then we're going to see what difference it means going uphill and downhill, and then we're going to look at if it makes a difference going along curved roads or straight roads, because you have curved or straight roads. I'll show you each of those experiments, and then we'll look at what is best, what's the fastest. There's also dirt track, which we're seeing now, and stone track, so we'll have a look at what difference that makes. And finally, we'll use these roads and the standard timings of these roads to figure out if the 2 times speed is actually 2 times faster, the 3 times speed is actually 3 times faster, and the 2 fast or 20 times speed is actually 20 times faster. So yep, you can see each time I'm building a watchtower which has 4 planks, so I'm going to have 4 observations for each. This was the first experiment, and I can tell you that traveling along both of those roads, from picking up the plank to putting down the plank, 5.6 seconds. So split that in half, it's 2.6 seconds to travel along a curved and straight or flat, rather flat piece of dirt road. So that is going to be our standard unit, 2.6 seconds. Let's look very quickly at the other experiment and I'll tell you the results. So our second experiment was going uphill into the red and then a flat, and I always put it in the middle of different pieces, and so you see we did the 4 observations for that one, so that's 1 uphill and 1 flat. There was also a flat and then an uphill on the orange, and again just connected that to a watchtower and watched this go for another 4 observations. There they are. So then we did a flat and then a green uphill. Did that one. Then we did a flat and a green downhill, and did 4 observations on that one. Then we found a orange downhill and a flat. Did some observations there, and then a red downhill and a flat, and that one was pretty hard to find. Did some observations on that one. And what we found surprised us, because when we did the flat ground 2 times, we found that the average carrying from one place to another, one flag to another, was 5.6 seconds, which, you know, if you divide it by 2, means 2.8 seconds to get from one to the next. We did it 4 times, and it seemed relatively consistent. So we thought probably going downhill would be faster, going uphill would be slower. And in fact we did find that if you had a flat ground and then an up in the red, it was slower. It was actually, the average was 9.4 seconds. If you take off the 2.8 seconds for going along flat ground, you get 6.63 seconds to go uphill on the red. Uphill on the medium, you get 4.32 seconds. Uphill on the kind of light green, which I'm calling yellow, 3.3 seconds. And so that's relatively consistent. But if you go downhill, didn't seem to make a difference. Didn't seem to in fact make you faster at all, seemed to make you a little bit slower. I found this really hard to believe, so I did some testing on a double downhill and it came out almost exactly the same as a flat. So what we find is the carrier or the hand will travel or carry things slower when going uphill, but not faster when going downhill, and that's important for how we set up our economies. We want to try and get carrying flat or downhill as much as possible, but not going uphill if we can help it at all. You can see here we did a further experiment, plotted this one on flat ground, relatively consistent going back and forth, but when going downhill on the red, it's about the same gradient as the going along the flat ground, but then going uphill much slower, and so you lose about 20 seconds over 5 journeys, or about 5 seconds a journey over 4 journeys. So that's important. Also, you can see here, if we look at carrier speeds on the flat ground, 4 journeys, 42 seconds, having to go uphill 57 seconds, nearly a minute, so again nearly 20 seconds slower, but then the range between those is interesting. So the going downhill can be slower. What does this mean? Well, I did a little bit of extra testing on straight paths and curvy paths because I didn't take that into account, and going along a curvy path is slightly slower, and I'll show that experiment here. All I did here was set up 2 straight paths to get to a certain point, and then just recorded how long it took for the wood to get from the storehouse to the watchtower, and then a curvy path to the same point, actually travelling through the same number of lines, and the straight path was quicker by a ratio of about 0.9. We've set up a dirt track which is very long, so that we could do a precise measurement, and this track to deliver from picking up the wood to delivering it, we did again 4 observations, took 132.8 seconds to deliver each piece of wood. That's the average of the 4 different observations. Did it very precisely as I could. We then moved on to a stone track, and you can see that here. Do people travel along a stone track faster than a dirt track? No, they don't. 132.8 0.7 seconds, so probably just a problem with my observations, but again did that on 4. The difference of course between a stone track and a dirt track is you can have a donkey as well as a person on a stone track. You can have two people. Now it doesn't quite speed everything up by 2 because you've still got the back and forth and the delay in picking things up, but it is of course much faster, nearly twice as fast to have a stone track. To get a stone track you need donkeys and a donkey farm, and we'll look at the donkey farm later. Then I thought to myself, with this very precise timing, let's see if speeding things up by 2 will actually speed things up by precisely 2. So here they went again, and it doesn't. They actually speeding up by 2 actually on my computer anyway speeds it up by 2.2 times, and so slightly faster. Did the same experiment with the times 3 speed, and again slightly faster than 3. It's 3.2 times faster than just leaving it normal. Of course, if you speed it up by 2 or speed up by 3, your enemies are also sped up by 2 or by 3, and so there's no real advantage. All it means is when we're doing our experiments, we do have to do them in average normal speed. We can't just do it on times 3 and divide it by 3 because it's uncertain exactly how much faster it is. Then did on the too fast cheat, which is meant to be 20 times faster. It's 21.3 times faster according to this experiment. It took 6.2 seconds to get each piece of wood to where it was supposed to be going. The average, it was 51 sections, and so if we took the average of 51, it was actually 2.6 seconds per section. So I think we can say that for a carrier to carry a piece of wood along a flat section is probably between 2.6 and 2.8 seconds per section, and of course if you're going uphill, 6.63 seconds. So a carrier can take anywhere between 2.6 and 6.6 seconds to carry a piece of wood or whatever from one place to another. It doesn't matter what you're carrying, everything takes as long as everything else. It doesn't matter if stone is heavier than a sword. It does take exactly the same amount of time. The other thing is a donkey has 2 packs on its back. Can it carry 2 things at once? No, it can't. The savings are because you've got a donkey and a man, and they travel at exactly the same speed. So I think that's everything for our carrier. I hope you've learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to showing you the next level walkthrough, which will be the next video that we do. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a lovely day. Take care.